Can I just get you to please state your name for the record?
My name is Darrell Nash.
And how old are you, sir?
I'm 66,
And where were you born?
right here in Harrisonburg.
What was life like growing up in Harrisonburg?
We lived on Broad Street. And my dad was just back from the Second World War when I was born in 1947. We lived in the apartment above my grandmother's house at 49 Broad Street. She lived in the lower apartment, and we lived in the upper apartment. In 1951, we moved to a house on Maplehurst Avenue, which is now right adjacent to the campus. It's the street that's separated by the railroad track.
How old were you when you heard about the Urban Renewal Project?
Well, I must have been about 15 or 16, I guess. Not that I paid the slightest bit of attention to it. I think at that period of time, my dad was on the city council, so he may have been greatly involved in it. If it wasn't, he never talked about it, or if he did, I didn't know about it. I knew something was going on.
What is your opinion on the actions of the Urban Renewal Project?
You mean as a matter of philosophy?
In your own words.
Well, I'm sure in some places it was helpful. In other places it was just an intrusion of big government, which nobody seemed to worry about too much back in the days of the war on poverty. It was all this big pot of money was made available, with the theory being that these places were blighted, and if you fixed them up, you would end crime and poor education and all that stuff. And maybe some places it did, but as far as Harrisonburg went, I don't know if it really did much. It did provide new retail opportunities for businesses in those corridors to build new structures. And what I think sometimes the critics of urban renewal forget is that a lot of those neighborhoods, with the exception of individual properties which had been kept up, were trashy looking. Many of them were built without any kind of adherence to a code, because it didn't have one when it was built. You just built what you could afford to build. And some of them had been taken care of, and a whole lot of them had not been taken care of. And the stuff that they tore down is only charming in retrospect. Having crawled on top of and around and through many of them in the course of teaching a historic preservation course at JMU, I can tell you that they weren't particularly well built. Builders cut corners wherever builders can. And now, though, the ones that have made it and survived, they do make neat, trendy restaurants like Clementine's and Jack Brown's. So I think it's, it's perhaps too bad that a thriving community disappeared. But I don't think it's any different than the pattern of change that happens everywhere across the United States.
Over 50 years after the Urban Renewal Project, do you think everything was worth it?
Looking at it nostalgically, you think, well, we did threw away a lot of our history. Didn't record it, barely took pictures of it, because it wasn't considered worthy of taking pictures of. And we chopped up this community and made furthered the idea of a society of atomized individuals with no particular connection to place. I mean, that's how I would approach it. A historian will always put things in context because we have to. That's the way we think. And for people who don't know the history and don't care to learn about it, it becomes some kind of a moral issue to put their soapbox on the corner. This was wrong, it was always wrong.